The only follower that I have just commented on one of my videos about how they would like for me to read some of the passages that I found interesting in books. And shout out to them, first and foremost. Much love. But I thought, you know what? That is a good idea. But I've been debating which book I should talk about first. Like, there's plenty of books I highlight for various reasons. Sometimes I find it stupid, sometimes I find it interesting. And so I was thinking of talking about Haunting Adeline, which is a book I hate, despise, gave it 2 stars when I read it. I've talked about this book with my partner, with my family. Like, I made an entire video talking about it already, but it's very long. And I don't think I explained myself correctly because I was also doing my nails. So I should really stop multitasking when I'm talking about books. So I was like, you know what? Let's talk about it. Now that I'm looking at the highlights, I think I was a dumbass because I was very mad. I felt that the book was romanticizing very harmful and toxic behavior. I felt it was dangerous, and this is a conversation that is being discussed, like a topic that's been discussed in the community. I saw a video recently from one of the creators that I watch occasionally about how Alchemized, which is a book that I have on my TBR because I've been interested in reading it, won a book prize, like a book award. And on that video is when I found out that the book is meant to be a fan fiction, like a merge between a Hermione fanfiction and Handmaid's Tale fanfiction. And it was previously called Manacle, and it was on AO3, which is a very popular fanfiction site. My alarm is going off. I have to go to work in like 10 minutes, which is really bad that I decided to record this, but I have a bad habit of recording videos in not the most ideal times. So I don't know how far am I gonna be able to get on this video, but whatever. And it has a lot of heavy topics. When I read the blurb, I thought it was just any typical fantasy book. And I've been hearing very good things about the book. And the only bad thing that I've heard is that the body horror is a little tough and it's very descriptive. And I was like, okay, but I can handle horror. I don't know if I can handle body horror, but I'm pretty sure I can handle horror. And so that wasn't deterring me. But then I saw that video and I realized there is a lot of R-word scenes, and it's basically about Hermione being a handmaid for Draco, which is crazy. That whole sentence is just crazy. I'm also watching The Testaments, which I just found out is a book. So I added it to my TBR, but I haven't even read The Handmaid's Tale, and I actually haven't watched that series. But The Testaments I do like. Anyway, sorry for the tangent. I also saw another video of another creator that they were talking about how a book of like a French book has been banned because it promotes CSA. It's about a woman that wants to basically had a kid because she's interested in a guy that seems to be interested in kids, like babies. And it's multiple scenes of that. And nobody has read the book. The book's been banned, it's not able to be found anywhere. And I'm not really sure if the victim has been demonized or not, if it has been made clear that the victim is not a good person, not the victim, but like the main character is not a good person. Because for parts of the video, she was talking about a paragraph that they had, and it was sort of made evident that the main character was not a good person. But I don't know how the book goes, so I cannot tell. And in Alchemized, apparently there's no discussion about how those actions that he's committing against the main character are not good. And they were talking about how It is not that they shouldn't be published or anything like that, but that they should probably, like, the author is responsible for the content that they produce, and they should be careful about how they produce certain content and certain ideals. And that's pretty much how I felt about Haunting Adeline when I read it. I decided to read it because I'm not for Jubilee, but it had been popping up in my feed on Fable, and apparently it's because it went viral on TikTok. People were talking about how great it is, how they love Sade, how they want somebody as Sade as a boyfriend, how they would like a relationship like that. And I'm always down for a very good dark romance. To be honest, when I read the blurb, I've talked about this multiple times. I thought it was like a paranormal romance, like he was a demon or something. It is not. He's pretty much a human guy. But that goes to show how blurbs affect the perception that you have of a book, and that's the reason why you decide to read or not a book. And they also talk about how Alchemized has a blurb that doesn't necessarily explain what you're gonna get from that story, and that a lot of people got it because of the blurb, and then they were completely taken it back, and they even threw it in the trash because they just didn't like the book and they thought it was garbage. So I think that's actually a very good conversation to have as well. But in this particular case, I started reading it, and from the get-go, I was like, this is not making sense to me. If you haven't read it, basically, Haunting Adeline is about a guy that becomes obsessed with a writer and decides to start stalking her, and then they develop a relationship, and they fall in love, and yada yada yada. From like the first few pages, when you see the way that he became obsessed with her, to me, it doesn't make sense. He just saw her once and he was like, I love her. That's not how that works, dude. You cannot love someone just because you saw them. Like, you are attracted to them, you find them pretty, probably, like, but you cannot love them. And I think, of course, he's not all that right in the head. He sees her and he's like, I want her. It's like, okay, everybody can have that kink. He starts stalking her, which I don't have an issue with. Some people could talk about the romanticization of stalking, how dangerous it is, especially victims of stalking. Ironically, I didn't have an issue with that. So he starts stalking her, and the woman is an idiot. She knows she's an idiot. At one point, he is the first encounter that they have, like physical encounter that they have, where they see each other and they talk for the first time, because up until this point, he has just been a shadow at her house. I will just say. So he starts stalking her, and she's just moved to this house that used to belong to her grandmother. It's a very old house, and she's there for inspiration. I think she writes like mystery novels or something like that. And the guy starts breaking into her house. He leaves glasses of scotch to let her know that he has been there. He leaves roses without the thorns, that he cut off the thorns so she doesn't prick herself with them, which people are taking as a romantic gesture. And I even saw a post about a woman that said their partner gifted them a rose like that, and it was so romantic because she has been talking about it, which in part it is romantic that your partner took notice and heard you, and that is a romantic gesture. The part about you liking the rose and seeing that as a romantic gesture in the book, at one point she becomes, weirded out. Like, she realizes this is dangerous. The guy keeps breaking into her house. She calls the cops and files reports, and they disappear. They get deleted. Nobody knows what's happening to them. Every time she's gonna file a report, it turns out that the last report she filed is nowhere to be found. She at one point decides to go to her friend's house and stay with her for a couple of days, but then she goes back, which, bro, Adeline is not the smartest girl in the book. Actually, nobody in this book is smart, but she's not the smartest character. The way that she thinks, like, she just has to stay with her friend for a few days, and then she's like, you know what? No, I'm going back to my house because that is my house, and nobody's gonna run me out of my house. And like, you do know that a stalker is breaking into your house, and he has like plenty of access to you, and he can hurt you because you don't know exactly what he wants, and yet you're still gonna stay there because that is your house. I'm pretty sure she has plenty of money to move to another place. She could even stay at a hotel, and I'm not saying that would do anything, but at least she's trying. Like, she just gave up, and she's like, I'm going back to my house. At one point, she saw cameras and realizes that the guy hacked the cameras because he's a hacker, but she doesn't know that. But he hacked the cameras that she had installed. So she knows he's watching her at any moment. So not only can he break into her house, he's also watching her through cameras that she installed to keep safe from him. At one point, she's hooking up with a guy that she met at a club, and she brings him back to her house, and the stalker just has a fit, and he lures the guy outside, and the guy disappears. And a few days later, she gets the hands of the guy on a box, which means she probably killed the guy, cut off his hands, and shipped them to her to let her know nobody can touch you because you're mine. That is psychotic behavior, and despite all of that, she decides to stay at the house. Girl, you don't know if he's planning to kill you. You don't know how obsessed he is. Like, you're lucky that's not what he wants. But plenty of stalkers want that, so I don't know, maybe moving to another state would be ideal, but what do I know? I haven't ever been stalked. Well, I have, but not in that way. Like, at least I haven't feared for my life. I've just been stalked online. There's this particular highlight that I did that says, a creepy ass dude potentially has my nudes. Worse, he probably has video footage of me naked. I suppose it's not the worst thing in the world to happen. My body is fabulous. And I think this is the only quote of the book that I have no issue with. Because you know what? Get a girl. That's how everyone should think about themselves. Like, yes, your body is fabulous. And you should know it. Basically, when she realized that the guy hacked into her security cameras and he's able to watch her, and apparently she has been taking nudes at her house, and the guy probably hacked her phone too, she doesn't know. And she's talking about it with her friend, and her friend asks her who she sent the nudes to, and she says, I haven't sent nudes since I was 20. I take nudes because I like my body and I want to stare at it all day. Yeah, I get it. I mean, I don't do that, but I get it. There's about 30% into the book. So there's this particular thing where she's called the manipulator. It's dual POV. So it's from her point of view and also from C's point of view. And her point of view is called the manipulator. C's point of view, it's called the shadow. My partner just left, and I'm going through the highlights that I made in the book, and I just realized something. This is a traumatic bonding. That is what's happening in this book. And I think the author intended it that way. I mentioned how one of my biggest issues with the book is that I felt it was normalizing very toxic behavior and an unhealthy dynamic, and it was problematic to be romanticizing these sort of relationships to a younger audience because this went viral on TikTok, and there were a lot of people that were romanticizing the relationship. And I felt the author didn't do a good job at portraying how bad the relationship is. Now, this is talked about as a dark romance, and one of the requirements for a dark romance is to have a happy ending. And spoiler alert, this one doesn't have a happy ending. I don't know if it counts if the second book has a happy ending, although I don't know because I haven't read it. But I feel this is more of a horror book. And going through the book, like going through the highlights, I think I was the idiot that didn't realize the author was making it, well, I don't know if it made it like explicitly clear that this is not okay. I was waiting. Oh, just in case, I need to explain. Traumatic bonding, it's when a victim develops a bond with their abuser, like an attachment. It is not, I know a lot of people confuse it and think it is a victim developing a bond with another victim that went through a similar experience. No, like that's not traumatic bonding. Traumatic bonding is when the victim develops a bond with the abuser. And there's a lot of things that goes into that. For example, it needs to have a power imbalance.
The abuser needs to be the one that is in control, and the victim needs to feel like they have no power over the situationship, not situationship, over the situation, and feel like as if they cannot escape it. Which we do see happen in the book. As I explained, she tried several times to make reports, and they disappeared. She installed cameras, and he hacked them. He even hacked her phone, which is why I read the quote. And she's making a joke here, trying to minimize the situation. But she and her friend are talking about how he hacked into her security cameras and he can text her from an untraceable number. Even her friend, which is a hacker, is not able to find him. It also includes intermittent rewards and punishment, which means that it changes from punishment to rewards, and she doesn't know when she's gonna get one or the other. Trauma bonding can include using fear, sexual feelings, excitement to basically rope someone in. There's also the term weaponized attachment, which is when a person deliberately uses manipulation to create an emotional bond that they can exploit and use to control another person. It's more of coercive control rather than a psychological response to trauma. This happens literally if there's a recurring pattern of abuse and it's a cycle that repeats abuse and then a makeout or what is called the honeymoon phase, which is when they apologize or the victim gets some sort of reward, which in this case is him scaring her shitless, like the stalking and scaring her to then I'm gonna put the word on the screen because I don't know if I can say that on YouTube. Like I said, there needs to be a power imbalance. The abuser needs to seem or be the one who has all the control in the situation, and the victim needs to feel or be the one powerless, as if they have no control, as if they cannot escape the situation that they're in. Which, like I said, it is reinforced by Said constantly invading her boundaries and just surpassing any obstacle she tries to put in his way. Just like with the cameras, just with the logs, being with another guy, he seems to be able to get his way. And she doesn't seem to be able to be protected in any way. And like I said, there has to be intermittent reinforcement, which is when he abuses her and then afterwards he treats her nice. And it continues to be repeated. Like on the first scene that they had physically together, the first time that they actually see each other, is after they've been texting for a while and he seems to be watching her, like he's watching her through the cameras and she knows. And he's texting her all the time, so she knows there's no way she can escape him. And she's kind of become used to the idea because, like I said, there's a power imbalance. No matter what she tries to do, she doesn't seem to be able to escape him. So he's the one who's in power. And she kind of lashes out and they're texting on the phone and I don't exactly remember how they got here.
It's been 84 years.
Basically, they're texting on the phone and she tells him that she's gonna find him. Or he says to find me or something. She's kind of lashing out at him because he said something sexual on a text. And she's looking through all of her house until she finds him. And when she actually finds him, she is very angry. She tells him to show his face and she's terrified of this guy. She starts asking him to leave, to please leave her alone. And he says he's gonna give her a chance to run and hide from him. So she does, but he still finds her. And when he finds her, that's where the scene that sours the entire book for me happens. And it's when he outworks her with a gun. She's fighting with him, she's trying to defend herself, and she tells him, well, she doesn't tell him, but she thinks, apparently when I'm in a life-threatening situation, all I can manage to do is make it worse. Some might call it fearlessness, but I just call it stupidity. And that's basically what my thoughts are of this girl. Like, I don't want to victim blame, but like, I feel the girl could have done so much more to try to defend herself. Like, maybe stay at a hotel. And I know it is not gonna protect her, but she could have tried, at least. That's when shows up the gun, he points it at her, and she's apologizing profusely, saying like she's very sorry. And he tells her, "You're not sorry yet, little mouse, but you will be." And again, that's where you see the power imbalance and also the intermittent reinforcement. And also you can see the weaponized attachment. He's trying to create an attachment purposely, like deliberately. He's trying to create an attachment between him and her by using fear and excitement. And he's doing all of that in order to be able to control her. And I just want to make it very clear, because a lot of people seem to be into this scene for some reason. And this is not dubious consent. There's a term called arousal non-concordance, I'm pretty sure. And that basically means that a person can respond to stimulation even when they don't want to engage or don't want a sexual activity. And it is something that is kind of being talked about more and more, because your body can respond by reflex. It happens because your nervous system is being triggered, and it doesn't automatically mean desire. That is literally when your body and your mind are not aligned. Arousal has different components, and it is also all regulated by the nervous system, and sometimes it is not aligned. Now, it could happen two different ways. Sometimes your body's turned on, but your mind isn't. You're not in the mood, even though if your body is reacting in a way as if you are. And sometimes it is the opposite. Your body is not in the mood, it is not reacting to stimulation, but your mind does want. Now, it can happen because of stress, it can happen because of trauma, it can happen because it's just literally a biological reflex. They sometimes compare it to as being tickled. Like you laugh even if you don't find it funny. It is something that automatically happens. And that is literally what happens to her on that scene. She actively says no multiple times, even though when he's telling her that he can see and feel her arousal. That doesn't automatically mean she's aroused. Her body's just reacting to the stimulation he's producing, stimulation he's enacting on her. And in this scene, he is punishing her. He's demanding things from her. He's talking roughly to her, asking her what she learned, telling her to do stuff. And she's quite literally scared. She has a gun inside her. She knows he can shoot at any minute, and yet she cannot escape the situation. So she has to comply. And after it's done, she quite literally says, "My body is full of rage, humiliation, and shame. I know this. But it's like my brain can't process those emotions, so it's just choosing to feel nothing at all." Is this what trauma does? Knowing you've been violated, but your body chooses to go numb instead? And yes, that is what trauma does. It's called disassociation, and disassociation is very common during SA. It's quite literally a self-defense mechanism. It's a way for your body or your brain to try to protect yourself. It's a survival response, and it causes emotional numbness where you basically don't feel stuff, or depersonalization, which is when like you kind of feel like out of body, like you're not. Hello. Like sometimes people feel like they're watching themselves, or like they're acting, or they're like in automatic mode. Sometimes they even feel like they're living in a dream or a game. And after he finishes, he tosses her a rose on top of her, and then he leaves. And that's a clear example of intermittent reinforcement. He punished her, and then he gave her a gift afterwards. And this can cause cognitive dissonance when they try to minimize or use the actions of the abuser in order to make it easier to stomach. They cannot, their brain cannot process the fact that this happened to them, and in order to make it easier to digest, they're trying to make themselves believe that that is not as bad as it was, or maybe that they wanted, or something like that. Like when she's telling her friend that it happened to her, her friend asks her, "Was it consensual?" And she tells her, "Well, it wasn't consensual at first." So she's even confused at what is happening. She's trying to make sense of the entire situation because she doesn't even understand it herself. And it happens a lot during cases like this, especially if there's a physical response to the stimulation. People sometimes feel like as if they're to blame, they blame themselves. But like I said, sometimes they try to rationalize it, like, oh, maybe it wasn't that bad because my body didn't feel like it was bad, even though my mind was in a completely different space and thought process. And this is after the second time that it happened. Because after the gun incident, he broke into her house, went into her room, ate her out, and she's even more confused now. And initially, she fights against him, but then she gives up because she literally cannot escape him. She's not able to defend herself against him. And so it happens, and this could also be taken as intermittent reinforcement. He was threatening her before that happened, and then he gave her a reward. She tells Daya, "You can judge me." And Daya just ignores the fact that she said it wasn't consensual at first. And she tells her, "You egged him on in a text because you felt like a bad bitch, and then he broke in to make good on his promise, ate your ass up, and you freak out at first, but then ended up right in his face." And she agrees with her and tells her that she doesn't know what to do because he didn't hurt her, but he did. "He definitely forced himself on me, but I would have let him go farther had he tried. I'm so fucking confused, and I feel dirty and wrong, but when it was happening, it felt..." And her friend asks her, "Really good, amazing, out of this world?" And she tells her all of the above. So her friend doesn't explain to him, "Hey, listen, this is wrong," or tries to support her or anything like that. She instead normalizes the behavior. Like Adeline tells her, "I don't know what to feel. I didn't like it, but I did." She's confused, and for it to be consent, it has to have an enthusiastic yes. There shouldn't be any confusion. So if there's any confusion, then it wasn't consent. And this toxic cycle keeps happening until she's used to the dynamic. And still her brain hasn't really processed what is happening. At one point they're driving towards a party that he has with some politicians, and they're talking, and he's driving, and he looks at him and thinks, just because the sun is pretty doesn't mean it's not dangerous to stare at. So still some part of her knows that this is not completely right, that he's not completely right. And I don't think I said this, but C is a hacker, and he has an entire company who actually works to save women and kids from human trafficking. His job is literally protecting women, and he's out here victimizing another, traumatizing another, abusing another, and he doesn't see anything wrong. He doesn't appear to find it wrong that he's doing it, even though he goes after people that do the exact same thing as him, only on a grander scale. And she even realizes, like a few sentences after she thinks about the song, she tells him, "How can you work to save women while actively stalking another?" And he answers, "I've never stalked anyone before you. Not outside of my job, at least. Definitely not for romantic purposes." Again, this is not romantic. He's not in love with her. In fact, I have a simple photo that basically differentiates traumatic bonding from authentic love. And I'm gonna put it on the screen. Basically, on a trauma bond, it is explosive, intense from the start, fluctuates constantly, as we're seeing happening in Haunting Adeline. In authentic love, it is a gradual progression towards greater intimacy. That's how it should happen. Like I said, you don't automatically see someone and think, "I'm in love with them" or "I love them." You probably think, "Oh, I'm attracted to them. I want to get to know them better." And as you get to know them better, your attraction intensifies until it becomes love. In a trauma bond, it's more of, "I need you, I'm addicted to you." Whereas in authentic love, it is, "I see you, I hear you, I understand you, like I get you, and I care about it." One is more intense than the other. One is more obsessive than the other. In a trauma bond, it is chaotic, unpredictable, a roller coaster of emotions. As we've seen happening on Haunting Adeline, she doesn't even know how to feel. Whereas in authentic love, it is predictable, it is safe, there's mutual trust, and the words align with actions. Like he says multiple times, "I love you, I'm gonna protect you, while he's one of the people that are pushing her boundaries, which is not protecting. This is protecting her from other people, but not from him. In a trauma bond, it is emotionally phobic but highly sexual. And that's the biggest element on the dynamic in the relationship, is the sex. An authentic love, it is about being more emotionally vulnerable and open to communication. Like, you talk about things. Like, yes, there's sex, but you have a deeper connection with the person. He doesn't seem to respect her when she tells him no. It's not that he doesn't seem, he literally doesn't respect her boundaries. The fact that she tells him no, whatever he feels is the most important. Again, the power imbalance. He is the one who has control. She doesn't. In a trauma bond, dramatic power imbalance, the person perpetrating the abuse is in charge. Just as we see. He's the one who decides anything, not her. Whereas in authentic love, there's clear boundaries, independence. This seems to look a lot like IPV, which is intimate partner violence. Because a few sentences down from that, she says, "I want to slap him, but the asshole would probably like it, and then turn around and slap me back, and my dumbass self would probably like it too. I'm fucked in the head. The atmosphere has only worsened, and I can't tell if it's because I now know he's some vigilante saving children and women from evil people, or if it's because he confessed that he's only ever turned into a psycho for me. Still, both prospects have shifted the way I look at him." And in IPB, they try to minimize or rationalize the dynamic, and they blame themselves, and even they see the fear as love. And it includes stalking abuse. Like, stalking is included under IPB. By the end of the book, we see it even more clearly. Like, there is a scene in A House of Mirrors when they go to a Halloween festival, and she's running away from him, even though by this point they seem to have developed some sort of relationship. Like, they seem to have established some sort of relationship. I guess they're not officially together, but they go out together. She's still scared of him, but she doesn't seem to be fearing for her life, or at this point she knows him more. They've been spending a lot of time together. He has stayed over a few times at her house. He had explained some part of his life. So they're technically closer, you could say. But they still have that dynamic where he has the power. Like, the power imbalance hasn't changed. It is not fixed. And while she's running, she's thinking, "I'm lost and trapped with a very dangerous man who is going to absolutely devastate me. I don't think I'm running from him anymore, but rather from the person I am going to be when he's finished with me." I was ready to give myself over to him when he emerged from my balcony doors and came to me with a heavy heart. The man put some type of spell on me, because when he was hurting, all I wanted to do was make him feel better. Give myself over to him if that's what could help. But I know that I would have woken up the next day and hated myself, because I would have slept with a stalker, a murderer, and a man who has forced himself on me on several occasions. I would have slept with a man who doesn't respect my boundaries, my personal space, or the word no. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that's exactly what's about to happen. How do I accept that? How do I toss away the moral compass that's been directing me my entire life? For a man that I should have loathed, but I don't. I just don't. He's all those things, but he's also one of the most admirable men I've ever met. The devotion and passion he has for saving women and children stolen away from their homes and lives. He's doing something massive in the world and making an impact in a substantial way. I can even begin to put into words the way he makes me feel. He's such a fucking oxymoron, contradicting in the most agonizing ways. And despite my cracked moral compass, I feel safe with him, even now when fear is rewiring my brain. I stop running, panting heavily. Hopeless. That's what running from Sadie is. Fucking hopeless. And that basically summarizes it. Now, I don't know if that makes it better, knowing that this is not a romance and it's more like, I knew it wasn't a romance. But being validated and having it be confirmed that it isn't a romance, but a story about a traumatic bond because I don't think people understood it. I think it went over the heads for a lot of people. And it went over my head too. Because while I was reading this, I didn't realize that's what was happening. Like I knew that's what was happening because I thought like, oh, she's first he's not in love with her, and second, she's not in love with him. She has been forced to be in love with him. She has been conditioned to be in love with him. But now that I'm seeing the highlights, it's like confirmed. Like I can see it very clearly. That's the plot of the story. A traumatic bond being developed, and that's why she's experiencing all those confusing emotions. That's why she's feeling all contradictory feelings. Like everything that I just talked about. The intermittent reinforcement, the cognitive dissonance, the power imbalance. It all points towards a traumatic bond. And by the end of the book, she has been completely conditioned. That's when it is specified. He has only been stalking her for 3 months. All of this happened in 3 months. She's thinking about him, and she thinks to herself, I don't know how long it's going to take me before I fully accept the fact that I've started to fall for him, that I'm accepting him into my life. After everything that she has gone through, the fact that just a few chapters ago, she was still scared of him. She was still confused, and she still is confused. And she rationalizes it by she's thinking about food, and the fact that he probably wouldn't mind if she took from his plate. And she thinks, that softens my heart into a pile of mush. Because somehow, a man that wouldn't care if I ate his food fell in love with me. That's so fucking cute. No, it's not. Did he really fall in love with you? In 3 months? And she's alone. He's not with her. He's away fighting some people, probably trying to help other girls escape from human trafficking. And the chapter ends with her saying that she feels sad. And I forgot to mention, but a traumatic bond literally rewires your brain. It like plays with your receptors, because of the intermittent reinforcement. And your brain is conditioned to be with him. Your brain recognizes being with him as being happy, and without him you feel sad. And that's why a lot of victims go back to their abusers, because their body, their brain, their nervous system got used to that. And so being with him equals being happy. Being without him equals being sad. Like your brain literally releases chemicals when they're together because it has been conditioned to do so. Like reinforcement is what we use to train any type of behavior. When you're a kid, if you do something bad, your parents say something to you. Sometimes they give you a punishment if you do something very bad. And that lets you know you cannot do that. If you do something good, maybe they'll give you a treat. Maybe they will congratulate you. And that lets you know you should do that. That is something good. It happens with animals as well. If your dog does something bad, you yell at them and you tell them they shouldn't do that. But if they do something good, maybe you give them a cookie. Maybe you pat them. That's literally the universal way to train people and animals. Yeah, I don't know how to feel about it. I don't know if I should feel better or worse because it's clearly not a romance, even though a lot of people seem to say it is, or worse because people didn't understood the message. Maybe the writer was not very clear on it. Maybe they didn't write it as well as they should. I'm not a writer and I don't want to, judge their writing or anything, but like it appears to me that is the message of the story. And there's not a lot of people that seem to understand that. Because if this is a trauma bond story, it is not a romance. It's literally something very bad that happened. It's a trauma response. So why are people saying they would want something like that? And I don't know how to feel. Because at one point, I feel slightly better about the book. My perspective has shifted a little bit. But at the same time, I feel a lot worse that people were not able to understand that, or that people don't care. that we are at this point in our life where that has been normalized, or people are gravitating to those types of behaviors. And I was literally reading a post on the domestic violence website, and they were talking about how a lot of media is normalizing this type of behaviors and relationships to the younger generation, and it's very harmful because this is what is showing them, this is what's conditioning them. A lot of these people have never been in a relationship, and this is the type of relationships that they're consuming and thinking that it's okay and thinking that it's romantic. This is very obsessive behavior, and a lot of people seem to want somebody obsessed with them. That oftentimes is not healthy. It leads to a very dangerous dynamic. So I don't know. Yeah, I've been talking for a while. Editing this video is gonna be a mess.